Effective communication. What is the purpose of athletes doing interviews, and when and why do they do them? The purpose of an athlete doing interviews is to inform the public about the thoughts and perspectives on a certain topic, like to promote ambassador work done by the athlete, or to enhance their own status to attract sponsors. A lot of the time, athletes do interviews after they have competed in an event because they want to inform the public how they thought about the performance during the event. The two types of interviews athletes attend to. There are two types of interviews that athletes attend to. The first one is a pre-recorded interview, which gives the athlete time to think about the question and to be more objective, so it is said in a professional manner and improves their status. An example of this is if an athlete has a structured interview on a laptop with pre-questions that the interviewee has seen, so they have time to think of a response to the question. The other type of interview is a live interview, which gets the interviewee's honest opinion on the certain subject, as it is an immediate reaction to the question asked. An example of this is if the interview is unstructured with open questions, so the interviewee doesn't know what will be asked, and the interviewer asks questions as the interview goes on, like on the radio or on TV. Types of significant others. Athletes will communicate with different people for different reasons. One person an athlete will communicate with the most is their agents. This is because an athlete's agent will inform their client about any events coming up that they should attend. Also, they will communicate with their agents if they think they're being undervalued by their club and want to move to another club or want to renew the contract, which is where the agent communicates with the club to discuss those issues. Another person an athlete will communicate with is their teammates. They will communicate with their teammates, especially if they've recently joined a new team, so they can increase chemistry between the players. Verbal and written communication for the media and significant others. When an athlete wants to discuss their contract with their team, they would send an email or letter to ask if they can discuss the issue with them. When they are signing a contract, they are using written methods to communicate between each other, and the agent uses verbal methods to communicate with the club and the client. Also, athletes communicate with their fans through social media by writing a short message. For example, many athletes communicate with their fans and peers through Twitter. Correct language when talking to or on the media. Athletes need to watch what they say while talking to the media or on the media, as it could lead to many people disliking what the athlete had said. Athletes need to avoid using swear words, slang words, sarcasm, laughing or joking about inappropriate matters, talking too much and fast, and interrupting the interviewer. An example of this is when Joey Barton responded to Gary Speed's suicide as selfish, and many people did not like what he had commented on. Athletes should avoid these, as many people may find it rude and may offend people. Athletes should also consider how their facial expressions are during interviews, as it could determine the words they used and how the public take it in. Language on the radio. When athletes appear on the radio, they have to consider on what they are saying, as it could be said in a wrong way, which would make the audience get upset about the words chosen by the athlete, as they took them in the wrong way. Interviews with sponsors. When an athlete is having a formal interview, it is key that they are dressed smartly, use specialist vocabulary, and ask open and closed questions, as they would want to be taken seriously by the interviewer. For example, if a footballer is negotiating a contract with a sponsor, they would wear a suit to the meeting to show formality to the sponsor. Interviews with their manager. But when an athlete is having a meeting with their manager or coach, they would wear less formal clothing as they want to feel comfortable with their manager with them, and would use semi-formal language so they can be more open to the manager but have still some formal appearance. The athlete would be asked more open questions by their manager, as they would want to know how the athlete is feeling and their opinion in depth. Planning for interviews. Athletes should prepare for interviews, as some of the questions that come up might feel like they're being offended and might change their views and make them anxious with their words, which will make them look unprofessional and less of a role model. They should prepare questions that may be said in the interview, especially after or before a major event that has or will occur, so they have a good idea on what they will respond to the question with. They should also consider the audience they are talking to, because they wouldn't want to use specialist vocabulary to children, as they won't understand what the athlete is saying. They should go over what they will say by rehearsing, so that when they are asked the question, they don't stutter and can confidently answer the question. Career planning. Backup plan. An athlete's backup plan. Athletes are unfortunate when it comes to a backup plan if the sport doesn't work out for them. This is because a lot of the time an athlete has started to compete at a high level standard of competition at a young age, which has stopped them from graduating or going to higher level of education to get a degree as a backup job. For example, Theo Walcott had to stop doing his GCSEs because he was signed by Arsenal at 17. This is unfortunate because after football he wouldn't have enough qualification to get a good paying job, which could lead to bankruptcy and depression. This is why many footballers try to get their coaching badges after their career is done, so they are still in a familiar environment. Goal setting and SWOT analysis. Goal setting is the process of identifying something that you want to accomplish and establishing measurable goals and timeframes. By setting goals for yourself, you are able to measure your progress because you always have a fixed endpoint or benchmark to compare with. This is good for an athlete as it can help them to strengthen their weaknesses and record their progress. Goal setting provides you the foundation of your drive. By making a goal, you give yourself a concrete endpoint to aim for and get excited about. It gives you something to focus on and put 100% of your effort into. And this focus is what develops motivation. SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is a process of evaluating the present condition or situation of an organization in terms of its environment. It is important for all organizations to make use of their strengths, improve their weaknesses, recognize opportunities when they rise, and eliminate threats. Performed on a regular basis, the SWOT analysis is excellent basis for good decision making. SWOT analysis on a performer. Strengths and weaknesses. I analysed Ryan Lewis's strengths and weaknesses as a footballer. His strengths were his speed and his ability to hold off a player with his strength. His weaknesses was his finishing and his passing. His short-term goal was to have at least 70% of his shots to be on target in his next match. His medium goal was to have at least 6 shots and 5 assists by 6 months. and his long-term goal was to have at least 50% pass completion ratio at least 10% shots to goal ratio by the end of the season. His smart targets. The weaknesses that I'll be setting the smart target on for Ryan is his ability to finish in football. Ryan should aim to get more than 60% of his shots on target by the end of the season. This can be easily recorded as you can analyze his shooting stats throughout the matches he plays in. His methods of improving his weakness. One method I suggested that Ryan does is finishing drills 3 times a week during his training sessions with his team. This will enable him to use different techniques at different angles and improve the correct technique he should use in certain positions to outwit his opponent. SWOT analysis for a second career. I analyze Ryan's strengths and weaknesses as a football coach. His strengths are that he's passionate and positive, but his weaknesses are his communication and his patience. His short, medium, and long-term goals. His short-term goal is to listen to his players' opinions on certain situation in his next training session. His medium goal is to have patience in his team's performance through half of the season, and his long-term goal is to have his football level 2 badge by the end of the season. His pathway of reaching his goal. Ryan would have to get £320 to pay for his level 2 coaching badge. It would take 145 hours to complete his level 2 courses. He would have to had attended the FA1 level coaching football course and hold the First for Sport level 1 award in coaching football qualification, and hold as minimum a current FA introduction to first aid in football, and hold an in-date completion certificate for the current FA workshop, Safeguarding Children in Football, or the new FA Safeguarding for Coaches workshop.